Here's a timely release, a spooky pumpkin platformer just in time for Halloween. Pumpkin Jack is an action platformer with a couple puzzles sprinkled in for good measure. I constantly think of A Hat in Time while playing, from the platforming all the way to the style. The game isn't going to blow your pants off, but it's solid. So let's chat about platforming, combat, and being a pumpkin. The platforming is why I showed up, and it doesn't disappoint. Controlling Jack works as expected, and is much better than some other 3D games. With a double jump, generous jumping height, and air control, you can land Jack wherever you need to. He even grabs onto ledges. The game is extremely forgiving, which is great if you don't want to struggle to try and make a jump. You can land on almost anything with a flattish surface. I'm impressed with the amount of polish put into the platforming. Anyway, there's a wide variety of mechanics, from basic platforming all the way up to riding a flying horse. The game keeps changing so you don't get bored. The mechanics build on each other too, so at first you're riding in a minecart on rails, which is more limiting. Then you're riding the horse, which is similar but without the rails, takes full advantage of the 3D space. The slow introduction of mechanics gives the player plenty of time to understand everything. The developer made a lot of smart decisions to constantly be delivering something new to the player. The on-rails sections do continue through the game quite a bit. I grew impatient waiting for them to end, but it says a lot more about me than the game. Hey, so if you're one of those people who hates instant deaths, then this is your warning. While I haven't been dying a lot, most of them are instant. If you touch any water, you're dead. If you mess up on the minecart, you're dead. Luckily, these save points are fairly close together. It hasn't been painful, but I died on the first minecart way more than anywhere else. Needed more experience getting the timing correct. I mentioned a few puzzles sprinkled in, and they're almost like mini games. Jack rips his head off and you play in a small arena solving a contained puzzle. It breaks up the game a little bit, but they're not going to be a blocker. For example, one of the puzzles is the card game Concentration, or you might know it as Match Match. It's another area of the game I was impatiently screaming, "Get on with it!" in my head, but I'm trying to quickly get through the game, so you might have a different experience. Side note, for an extra challenge, you can search for hidden crow skulls. They're everywhere. Some of them are in plain sight and are a reward for finishing combat. Others are out of the way, and you will need to inspect every area of the level. You can spend them on new outfits for Jack. It's a full model change from the pumpkin down, not the neck, the pumpkin. I enjoyed them as a nice little addition to the game. Moving on to the combat, and it's the weakest part. I eventually started running past enemies unless the combat was required to progress. It's fairly bland, and dodging away from enemy attacks is more about memorizing their pattern than anything else. The safe strategy is to get a couple of swings in and then get the heck out. There's plenty of health if you make a mistake, so another strategy is to sit in it and dispatch the enemies as quickly as possible. And while this works early on, the enemies do end up getting way too strong for this to work late game. No one seems affected when they take a hit either. I would love to see some sort of feedback from anything taking an attack. So button mashing is kind of the way to go for the entire game, but later on you have to be a little bit more careful as the enemies are stronger. Pumpkin Jack has a unique crow companion you can send out to attack the enemy for a little damage. It works well on the enemies at the beginning of the game and will kill them on one boop, but later on you cannot completely rely on the crow. They're also an integral part of the on-rails section of the game where you have to destroy obstacles in your way. They're a fun part of the story as well. More often than not, I would spam the skill to make sure it landed in time instead of waiting for the prompt. Jack does get multiple weapons, which help make the combat more exciting. While I can't tell if any of the weapons are more powerful than each other, they do have different attack animations. So I picked the one I liked the most and used it for most of the game. For example, the spear attacks in more of a line, and the shovel swirls around the player. Anyway, the story is a lot of fun. Playing the bad guy, and they don't give a damn. It comes across well, and the game knows it's a game. It points it out a few times when they're leaning on cliches and contrivances to push the plot along. I mean, if a game is going to do these things, then they should have fun with it. I'm enjoying the graphics, too. Pumpkin Jack is one of the better looking 3D games I've played in a bit. They took full advantage of the Unreal Engine. I think this is my second RTX game as well. It's subtle, but I definitely took pause a few times to enjoy it. It's nice to see indie games starting to include RTX. Still not worth upgrading to a new graphics card for though. Overall, Pumpkin Jack is fun, and the game is constantly going through new areas. Along the same lines, new mechanics are being introduced, which build off the old ones. It took me about 4 hours to complete without searching for all the crow skulls. Pumpkin Jack is one of those games which knows what it is and sticks to it, delivering a solid platformer without all the fluff. Here's your no-frills Halloween platformer. I'm cooking up some explosive videos, so hit subscribe and come along as I find some incredible indie games. Thanks for watching.